What if true love didn't hide in the shadows, but danced right in the spotlight? From Thailand to Korea, from China to Japan, these 10 power couples aren't just breaking hearts, they're breaking boundaries. They've turned romance into revolutions, kisses into headlines, and chemistry into cultural change. Get ready. Here are the 10 most iconic gay couples in Asia you absolutely need to know in 2025. It began with a message that wasn't supposed to mean much. A single heart emoji under a travel vlog. Edison Fan, the calm and devastatingly handsome Chinese model known for his quiet charm, had been scrolling late one night when he stumbled upon a Korean influencer whose energy felt like sunlight on caffeine. That was Huyve Seo, bold, loud, and beautifully unpredictable. From that tiny online spark, something unexpected started to burn. When they finally met in person during a fashion shoot in Taipei, time seemed to slow down. Edison's cool composure met Huyve's electric warmth, and suddenly every camera in the room felt like an intruder on something intimate. What began as a collaboration turned into connection, one that neither fame nor fear could contain. Edison came from a world of restraint. Gwangsoo elegance, rules, appearances. Huyve came from Seoul's storm of trends, laughter, and noise. Together, they found rhythm in their opposites. Edison steadied Huyve's chaos. Huyve cracked open Edison's calm. They started filming together. Cooking videos, travel diaries, stolen glances caught between takes, and the internet noticed. Fans across Asia fell hard. Eddie Huyve trended for months. Their chemistry wasn't forced, it was effortless. They didn't make declarations or labels, just gestures that spoke louder than any caption. The way Huyve adjusted Edison's collar on camera, the way Edison looked at him when he wasn't supposed to. Their love became a quiet rebellion, wrapped in soft laughter and shared moments. Then came the photo. A blurry airport shot of Edison asleep on Huyve's shoulder. It went viral overnight. Critics called it a stunt. Fans called it proof. But the next day, Huyve broke the internet with one tweet. He was tired, so I let him rest. 6 words that turned affection into defiance. Gentle, unashamed, and powerful. From that moment, they stopped pretending. Their videos became more personal, less staged. Sunday mornings cooking kimchi fried rice, late-night karaoke sessions, messy hair, sleepy smiles. They showed love not as perfection, but as presence. In a region still learning to accept same-sex love, their authenticity became its own revolution. They didn't march or make speeches. They didn't need to. Simply holding hands was enough to shift a generation's perception of what love could look like. Edison once said in an interview, "He reminds me that peace can be loud too." And Huyve, smiling, replied, "He's my calm in every storm." Today, they live between languages and time zones, but always within reach of each other. Their story isn't about fame, it's about finding home in another heartbeat. In a world obsessed with filters and facades, Edison and Huyve showed us that real love doesn't need perfection. It just needs courage, and someone willing to stay when the cameras turn off. It wasn't a secret, it was a statement. In 2013, South Korea woke up to headlines that would rewrite history. 2 men to marry in public. Kim-Jho Gwangsoo, the fearless film director known for turning taboo into art, stood hand in hand with David Kim Seung-hwan, a charismatic businessman with a smile that could melt headlines. Together, they weren't just lovers. They were about to stage the most radical love story Seoul had ever seen. The venue looked like any other wedding hall, flowers, tuxedos, champagne, but beneath the music was something electric, defiant. Hundreds gathered, cameras flashed, protesters shouted outside the gates. And yet when the doors opened, the chaos fell silent. 2 men, dressed in tailored suits, walked down the aisle to applause and tears. For a moment, the world forgot politics. All they saw was love. Their ceremony wasn't legally recognized, but it didn't matter. It wasn't about paperwork. It was about power, the quiet, unstoppable kind that comes when two people dare to live honestly. "This is not just our wedding," Kim-Jho said into the microphone, his voice trembling with pride. "It's our revolution." David squeezed his hand, smiling through tears. Cameras zoomed in. History was made. In a country still afraid to say the word gay out loud, their kiss on the stage wasn't scandal. It was salvation. It cracked open a door that had been locked for generations. Across social media, their images spread like wildfire. Two men wrapped in love and courage. Some called it madness, others called it hope. After the wedding, backlash came fast. Lawsuits, threats, whispers in boardrooms. But Kim-Jho and David never retreated. They turned their home into a headquarters for change, mentoring young activists, producing films that told the stories others were too afraid to tell. Their love became a movement. Cinematic, raw, unstoppable. Years later, they still walk through Seoul hand in hand, defying every expectation that time or fear could fade them. They've grown older, but not quieter. In interviews, they laugh easily, finish each other's sentences, argue about breakfast, just like any married couple. Except their love is still illegal on paper, and yet they never stopped believing. "We don't need the law to tell us we're married," David once said. Love made it official long ago. Today, younger couples call them legends, the pair who dared to say "I do" when the world said don't. Their wedding wasn't just a moment in time. It was a spark, one that still burns in the hearts of every queer person in Korea who dreams of standing at an altar in love, in truth, and in daylight. Because Kim-Jho and David didn't just challenge the system. They redefined what it means to love out loud. It didn't start with fireworks. It started with milk tea. In a tiny cafe in Taipei, under dim yellow light and the soft hum of rain, Max Lin, a fast-talking YouTuber with sharp humor and sharper style, met Shi Cheng Hao, a quiet designer who seemed to live inside his own world. Max was all energy and expression. Shi was silence and subtlety. Yet when their eyes met, time slipped. Something unspoken began. Max had always lived online. His life a series of perfectly edited frames, clever titles, and millions of views. Shi, on the other hand, spent his days designing things that made sense in a world that often didn't. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing peace. And somehow, Max's chaos fit perfectly into his calm. Their first video together wasn't meant to be romantic. Just a vlog, a behind-the-scenes day of work and coffee. But the internet noticed the glances, the laughter that lingered too long, the quiet way Shi watched Max when he thought no one was looking. Their chemistry was too real, too easy. Within weeks, fans were obsessed. Max and Shi trended across Taiwan. But while followers saw content, what they didn't see was the connection growing off-screen. Late-night drives through Taipei's empty streets, whispered conversations over takeout, the comfort of falling asleep to the sound of someone breathing beside you. Love, simple and unscripted. Max, once afraid of silence, started to crave it. Shi, once afraid of being seen, began to shine under Max's light. They became each other's balance, the loud and the quiet, the storm and the stillness. In a world obsessed with shouting identity, they showed that love doesn't always need to announce itself to be revolutionary. Then came the video that changed everything. A morning with us. No filters, no edits, just the two of them making breakfast, teasing each other, laughing until the camera shook. It wasn't a confession, but it didn't need to be. The way she leaned into Max mid-laugh said everything. The clip hit millions of views within days. It wasn't just viral, it was honest. For a generation raised online, Max and Shi offered something radical: sincerity. They didn't demand attention. They earned it by simply being real. When asked in an interview if they were together, Max smiled and said, "We share coffee, not labels." She added softly, "Sometimes love doesn't need a name, just presence." Their story became a quiet revolution across Asia, proof that love between two men didn't have to be loud to be powerful. It could be gentle, domestic, deeply human. Today, they still post travel vlogs, morning routines, glimpses of a life built on laughter and loyalty. But the magic isn't in the views. It's in the way Max still reaches for She's hand off camera. It's in the way she looks at Max like he's home. Because real love, the kind that changes hearts, not algorithms, doesn't shout. It lingers. It stays. They met under studio lights, pretending to fall in love, and somewhere between action and cut, they stopped pretending. Chawarin Perdpiriyawong, known to millions as Junior, was the golden boy of Thai television. Sharp jawline, shy smile, a quiet storm behind his eyes. Pruk Panich, or Z, was his opposite. Confident, teasing, magnetic. When they were cast together in a BL drama, producers expected chemistry. What they got was lightning. From the very first scene, fans felt it. The way Junior's voice softened when he said Z's name. The way Z couldn't stop looking at him even after the camera stopped rolling. Online, clips went viral before the series even aired. Junior and Z became more than characters. They became a phenomenon. Behind the scenes, things weren't any calmer. Every interview, every fan event, every accidental brush of hands sent social media into overdrive. Were they acting, or was it real? The truth was somewhere in between, a space they both protected fiercely. "We don't perform love," Z once said in an interview. "We just let it happen." As fame grew, so did the pressure. Thailand's BL industry thrives on fantasy. Fans want romance, but not reality. And yet Junior and Z refused to fake anything. They laughed together off camera, traveled together on holidays, posted cryptic photos that fans would analyze for days. But what made them magnetic wasn't mystery. It was tenderness. They didn't need declarations. Their silence spoke louder. One viral clip captured them backstage, Z adjusting Junior's mic, fingers brushing his neck. Junior looked up, eyes soft, whispering something no one could hear. That 10-second moment broke the internet. Thousands of fans commented, "That's not acting." They became symbols of something bigger than television, of a generation daring to love without apology. For many, Junior and Z weren't just co-stars. They were hope made visible. Even now, they never confirm nor deny. They don't have to. Their connection transcends labels. It lives in the way they protect each other from the noise, in the way they stand close even when cameras flash too bright. "Love," Junior once said softly, "doesn't need to be explained. It just needs to be felt." They are still side by side, on stage, on screen, in life's quieter corners. They've learned that visibility is a form of courage, and intimacy can be revolution. In a world still learning how to name queer love, they've given it something better. A face, a heartbeat, a story that refuses to fade. Because sometimes the most powerful love stories aren't written by screenwriters. They're written between takes, when the lights go dim and two people forget they're being watched. 17 years. That's how long they waited. Sappanyoo and Porsche Apiwat first met as teenage boys in a small Thai high school. Two souls who weren't supposed to find each other, but did. Back then, being in love meant hiding behind glances, whispers, and letters that no one was allowed to see. Yet even then, they made a promise. One day, when it's allowed, we'll say I do. Years passed. The world changed. Slowly, painfully. They built a life together. Quiet mornings, shared dreams, endless patience. Arm became a teacher, Porsche designer. They were partners in everything but name. No headlines, no scandals, just two men holding on to something the law didn't yet recognize. Then came January 23, 2025, the day history arrived. Thailand had just legalized same-sex marriage. Across the country, cameras rolled, crowds cheered, and couples who had waited decades finally stepped into the light. Among them stood Arm and Porsche, not as secret lovers, but as pioneers. Their wedding was live on national television. The moment they walked down the aisle, hand in hand, the nation held its breath. Arm's eyes were wet, but steady. Porsche smiled, the same smile that had waited 17 years to be seen without fear. When they said "I do," it wasn't just a vow between two people. It was a declaration that love had finally conquered silence. The ceremony was simple. White flowers, family tears, a kiss that felt like sunrise. But its impact was seismic. Social media exploded. Millions watched, reposted, cried. For Thailand's LGBTQ+ community, it wasn't just a wedding, it was a revolution wrapped in tenderness. Later that night, as fireworks lit up Bangkok's sky, Arm wrote one line on Instagram: "Love waited, love won." It went viral instantly. Thousands commented, thanking them for showing that patience isn't weakness, it's faith. Since that day, Arm and Porsche have become symbols of enduring love. Not celebrities chasing spotlight, but everyday heroes proving that change begins with hearts that refuse to give up. Their story has been turned into a documentary, The Wedding, now streaming worldwide, a testament to how love can outlast laws, fear, and time itself. When asked in an interview what he felt in that moment, Porsche said softly, "It didn't feel like history. It just felt like coming home." Arm smiled beside him, fingers intertwined, and added, "The world caught up to what we already knew." Because for 17 years, they didn't just wait for marriage. They built one, long before the law said they could. In a country where silence often speaks louder than truth, two women dared to say three impossible words: "We are together." Koyuki Higashi, once a bright-eyed actress with a voice made for storytelling, met Hiroko Masuhara, a strong-willed entrepreneur with calm fire in her heart. Their first date wasn't meant to change history. It was supposed to be coffee, laughter, connection. But by the time the cups were empty, they both knew something rare had begun. Japan, in 2015, still had no legal path for them. Love between women was tolerated, but invisible. Still, they refused to be erased. Together, Koyuki and Hiroko began to dream of something bigger. A world where love didn't need to whisper. And then, they made it happen. On a crisp morning in Shibuya, cameras gathered as the two women stood side by side, dressed simply, hands trembling but firm. When they received Japan's first same-sex partnership certificate, the crowd erupted. For the first time, the words "official" and "love between women" appeared in the same sentence. It wasn't marriage, not yet, but it was a door opening after decades of silence. The photo of their hands holding that certificate spread across the world. Overnight, Koyuki and Hiroko became symbols, not just of romance, but of resistance. "We didn't do this to be famous," Koyuki told reporters. "We did it because we were tired of hiding." But behind the headlines, they were still human. Two women in love, building a home, navigating the quiet spaces between activism and intimacy. Hiroko cooked, Koyuki wrote. They laughed, argued, dreamed. For a brief moment, they lived in the warmth of a love story that felt like a revolution. And yet, love, even brave love, is complicated. In 2017, they quietly parted ways. There was no scandal, no bitterness, only gratitude. "We may have ended our story," Koyuki later said, "but what we started will outlive us." And she was right. Their courage sparked a movement. Since that day, dozens of Japanese wards have followed Shibuya's lead, recognizing same-sex partnerships, step by step, toward equality. Every time a new couple signs their certificate, they do so in the shadow and the light of Koyuki and Hiroko. They may not share a home anymore, but they share something far greater, a legacy. Because sometimes love isn't meant to last forever. Sometimes it's meant to change the world. Once upon a casting call, two actors walked into the same room, and the room caught fire. Mew Suppasit, calm, brilliant, and dangerously handsome, was the type who planned everything down to the comma. Tul Pakorn was chaos in human form, charming, mischievous, and utterly unfiltered. When the director paired them for a BL series, no one expected a love story that would outlive the script. From their first scene, sparks flew. Their chemistry was so real it made the cameras jealous. Fans didn't just watch them, they shipped them, studied every glance, every smirk, every subtle touch. Mew-Tul trended for months. But what the world didn't know was that behind the fan service, something genuine was quietly growing. Off-set, Mew and Tul were inseparable, sharing meals, inside jokes, and an unspoken understanding that only two people perfectly mismatched could have. He was logic, Tul was laughter. He studied her chaos, he broke his walls. Somewhere between long shooting days and late-night rehearsals, friendship turned into fire. Then, in 2024, they made it official. During a fan event, Mew paused mid-speech, turned to Tul and said with a grin, "We've played lovers long enough. Let's make it real." Tul blinked, laughed, then pulled out a ring of his own. Double proposal, double chaos. The crowd screamed. The internet broke. Thailand had its first BL power couple turned fiancés. Now, they're not just co-stars, they're partners in life, love, and every ridiculous adventure in between. Their feeds are full of travel photos, cooking disasters, and stolen kisses that fans replay on loop. "We argue about snacks, not fame," Tul once joked. Mew added, "We're still writing our story, one take at a time." What makes them different isn't perfection, it's passion. They bicker, tease, and then hold hands like it's the first time, every time. Whether they're performing on stage or shopping for groceries, the spark is impossible to miss. It's the kind of love that doesn't fade when the lights go out. It glows brighter. Their engagement wasn't just a headline, it was a victory. For them, for love, and for every fan who ever believed that chemistry could turn into something real. Because when Mew Suppasit looks at Tul Pakorn, it's not acting, it's devotion. And when Tul smiles back, it's not fan service, it's forever. If this love story inspired you, hit like and share the video to spread the love. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss the next story of the couples who redefine what true love looks like. Their story didn't start with a kiss. It started with a fight, not against each other, but against a system that refused to see them. For over a decade, Seong-wook and Kim Yong-min built a quiet life together in Seoul. They shared a small apartment filled with books, coffee mugs, and laughter. A life that looked ordinary to anyone passing by. But legally, they were strangers. The law said they didn't exist as a couple. Hospitals refused to let one visit the other. Insurance forms ignored their names. Love to the system was invisible. But love to them was everything. So was the steady one. Thoughtful, gentle, always the calm before every storm. Kim was the bold one. Fiery, outspoken, unafraid to raise his voice when silence became unbearable. Together they were balance, reason and fire, tenderness and defiance. And when the world kept turning away, they decided to turn and face it head-on. In 2021, they made history. Standing side by side in a courthouse full of cameras and whispers, they filed South Korea's first legal challenge demanding equal rights for same-sex partners. They weren't politicians or activists. They were just two men who wanted to take care of each other, legally, medically, humanly. The case was denied. The headlines faded, but they refused to disappear. Then came the moment that changed everything. A high court overturned the earlier ruling, granting them partial recognition, the first victory of its kind in Korean history. When the verdict came, Kim grabbed So's hand and whispered, "We did it." Tears followed, not because they'd won fully, but because the world had finally, even briefly, said, "We see you." Their story wasn't just about the law. It was about love. The kind that shows up every morning, that survives bureaucracy and backlash, that doesn't stop when the cameras do. They still walk through Seoul holding hands, not to provoke, but to remind people that love isn't an idea. It's real. It breathes. It endures. When asked if he was afraid of the attention, So smiled softly and said, "If our love makes someone braver, then it's worth it." Kim laughed and added, "We didn't start a movement. We just refused to hide." Today, they remain symbols of courage in a country still learning to speak the language of equality. But more than that, they remain what they've always been. Two men in love, stubbornly, beautifully, endlessly. Because sometimes the most powerful revolution doesn't start with anger. It starts with holding someone's hand and never letting go. It started with a camera and two boys who just wanted to make people laugh. Kim Dong-hyun and Baek Seung-hwan were never trying to change the world. They were just two boyfriends filming their life, cooking ramen at midnight, teasing each other over board games, arguing about who snores louder. Their YouTube channel, Mango Couple TV, began as a small corner of joy on the internet. But within months, it became something much bigger. A mirror for a generation that had never seen love like theirs so boldly, so openly, and so real. Dong-hyun was the quiet one, thoughtful, responsible, the kind of man who always made sure the batteries were charged and the house stayed clean. Seung-hwan was chaos personified, loud, funny, unfiltered, a walking burst of color. Together, they were magic. Structure and spontaneity, reason and laughter, heart and heartbeat. Their videos weren't polished productions. They were moments, raw, unfiltered, alive. Morning coffee runs, cooking fails, random dance-offs in the kitchen. Fans tuned in not for perfection, but for truth. Every laugh, every stolen glance, every "I told you so" felt like watching love grow in real time. And for millions across Asia, that was revolutionary. In South Korea, where same-sex relationships were often erased or mocked, Mango Couple TV became a safe haven. They didn't preach politics, they lived them. Their activism was subtle but powerful. Two men being domestic, affectionate, normal. "We don't need to convince anyone," Dong-hyun said in one vlog. "We just want to show what love looks like when it's real." Then came the moment that melted the internet. During a live stream, someone accidentally blurted out, "My boyfriend is too handsome today." Silence. Then laughter. Dong-hyun blushed, tried to end the stream, but the clip had already gone viral. Within hours, millions watched, not out of shock, but joy. It was the first time many viewers had seen two men in love, laughing together like it was the most natural thing in the world. But fame brought fire. They faced hate comments, backlash, whispers from conservative media. Some sponsors dropped them. Yet instead of retreating, they doubled down, posting a video titled, "Love Doesn't Need Permission." In it, they held hands, looked into the camera, and simply said, "We're not going anywhere." That defiance turned them from YouTubers into icons. Their channel grew stronger, their community tighter. Viewers began sending messages. "Because of you, I came out to my parents. Because of you, I believe I can love freely." Their love became more than content. It became a comfort. And as the years passed, they continued to evolve, turning Mango Couple TV into a space for laughter, healing, and hope. When asked in an interview what keeps them together, Seung-hwan laughed and said, "He still makes me coffee every morning." Dong-hyun smiled back. "He still burns the toast, then softer, but I wouldn't trade it for anything." Because that's what their story really is. Not just about courage, but constancy. About two men who didn't wait for permission to exist, who built a love so bright it lit up millions of screens and countless hearts. They began with a camera. They ended up changing how Asia sees love. He was already a star when the world met him. Woody Milintachinda, Thailand's boldest TV host, a man who could make celebrities cry and politicians squirm, had built a career on asking hard questions. But the one question he never answered publicly was about his own heart. For over a decade, while cameras followed every move, there was always one man quietly standing just outside the frame. Akkharaphol Chabchitrchaidol. Calm, composed, and endlessly patient. Their story didn't begin in a studio, but in silence. Two souls drawn together in a world that wasn't ready for their kind of love. Woody was fire, loud, confident, magnetic. Akkharaphol was water, steady, grounding, the calm that tamed the flame. Together, they built something rare, a partnership of equals, invisible to headlines but unshakable in truth. For years, they kept their relationship private, not out of shame, but out of self-preservation. Thailand loved Woody the entertainer, not necessarily Woody the man who loved another man. And yet, through all the fame, all the flashing lights, Akkharaphol stayed. Through every red carpet, every sleepless production night, every silent morning coffee shared before the world woke up. Then, in 2016, everything changed. In a live TV segment that would become historic, Woody paused, smiled, and said, "This is my person." And for the first time, he spoke Akkaraphol's name to the world. The reaction was explosive. Social media flooded with support and shock. Sponsors hesitated, fans cried. But Woody didn't flinch. He looked at the camera and said, "Love isn't a scandal, it's a story." Their public coming out was more than a confession. It was a cultural earthquake. For the first time, millions of Thais saw a national icon proudly introduce his longtime partner. Their love went from whispered rumor to blazing headline, from private devotion to public revolution. But beneath the noise was something tender. The two didn't become activists. They simply lived their love with quiet grace. They started sharing glimpses of their life, cooking together, traveling, laughing at the small absurdities of fame. "He's my balance," Woody once said. "When I talk too much, he listens. When I doubt, he believes." Akkharaphol rarely speaks in interviews, but when asked what keeps them together, he smiled and said softly, "Because he's still the same man I fell in love with, just louder." Now, years later, they're still side by side, building a home, mentoring younger LGBTQ voices, and redefining what long-term love looks like in modern Asia. Their bond is mature, real, unfiltered, proof that passion doesn't fade with time, it deepens. Because Woody and Akkharaphol didn't just survive the spotlight, they thrived in it. Their love didn't hide in shadows, it turned the lights brighter. And somewhere in Bangkok tonight, between laughter and quiet understanding, two men are still proving one simple truth. Love, when it's real, doesn't need permission. It just needs to be seen. And that's a wrap, but not the end. Because love like this doesn't fade when the credits roll, it echoes. From Seoul to Bangkok, from Tokyo to Taipei, these 10 couples didn't just fall in love. They rewrote what love means in Asia. They turned fear into freedom and tenderness into strength. They reminded millions that being seen is not a luxury, it's a right. Every laugh, every glance, every defiant "we're together" became a spark in a continent still learning that love has no single language. Whether it's two men holding hands in the streets of Seoul, 2 women signing a partnership certificate in Tokyo, or 2 hearts quietly building a home in Bangkok. They all tell the same story. Love wins when we dare to live it out loud. So if even one of these stories made your heart race, smile, or ache a little, that means the revolution is already working. Because visibility isn't just about fame, it's about healing. It's about saying to every kid watching from their bedroom, you are not alone. You deserve this kind of love too. Let's keep that energy alive. Hit that like button to show your support. Subscribe if you believe that love in every form deserves its spotlight. And don't forget to ring the so you never miss a story that might just change someone's world. Until next time, stay bold, stay kind, stay unapologetically you. Because in a world that keeps asking us to be quiet, loving loudly is the most radical thing we can do.